I didn't think I would be making an update, but I figured it was the right thing to do since all of you were so supportive when I posted a few days ago. It all came to a head, I guess, and my family and I are currently living in the worst case scenario. Here's my original post. My parents and the cops were still organizing search parties in the woods surrounding our house. Their working theory was that Kevin had some sort of underlying mental health issue that was made worse by the weeks of isolation on the trail. They also think that maybe he could have been given something or taken something while out there, and the chemical reaction of whatever drug caused some sort of psychosis. I couldn't bring myself to tell them that that thing wasn't my brother. All the comments on my last post made that pretty clear. I don't think I can say that I had accepted the fact he was gone at that point, but I knew whatever we found of him, if we found anything at all, would not be my brother. Well, we did find him. It happened last night. It was late, but my parents were still out with the police and sniffer dogs in the woods. I was told to stay home in case he came back while they were gone. I was sitting in the living room, keeping an eye on the side yard where the woods start to get thicker, when I heard this weird thunking sound. It was slow and paced evenly like a metronome. Thunk, pause, thunk, pause, thunk. From my viewpoint in the living room, I could see a shadow cast across the dining room table, backlit from the street lights outside. My parents' house is sort of a U-shape. You can walk a circle around the first floor, going from kitchen to dining room to living room and back again. I slipped off the couch and sort of crouch-walked my way into the kitchen. From there, I had enough of a cover from the wall dividing the living room and dining room so that I could see the bay window that looked out across the front yard. There was my brother, or rather the thing pretending to be my brother. He was standing in front of the window, rocking back and forth on his heels. He walked too close, and his forehead would clunk against the window. Punk. Then he would step back, almost like it had surprised him. Pause. And then rock forward again. Thunk. He looked awful. His skin was sallow and slick with sweat, which made no sense since it's November in New England. It hasn't been above 50 degrees in weeks. His lips were crusted over with blood, and I knew enough at that point to know it wasn't his. The worst thing, though, were his eyes. They were this sickly pale blue. The lenses looked cataract, and his pupils were dilated, unfocused points. My breath hitched in the back of my throat, and my heart felt like it was going to fall out of my stomach. I kept my eyes trained on him as I reached for my cell phone and tried to dial 911. The phone trilled, and I waited for the operator to pick up. There was a soft click and then, "Middleton County 911, do you need fire, police, or ambulance?" I started to speak, and then suddenly Kevin seemed to focus on me. Maybe he had heard my voice? His clouded eyes seemed to laser focus for a moment, training on me crouched behind the wall. I wasn't sure if he could see me. He shouldn't have been able to from his position, but the thunking became louder and more urgent. I gave the operator my name and address. Kevin began to bang into the window faster and faster. I tried to explain that my missing brother was back, but that something was wrong, that he was trying to do something. The crack of the window pane was the loudest sound I had ever heard. I watched as my brother slammed his head again and again into the glass. Blood smeared across his forehead, and then the cracking turned to a smash as my brother crashed through the pane. I screamed. I dropped my phone and I ran. The only room in my parents' house with a lock is the bathroom, so I scrambled to get there and lock the door. Once I was there, I could hear Kevin falling through the broken window and lumbering around the house. His feet sounded unnaturally heavy, like they were waterlogged. I could hear the crunching sound of broken glass under feet, and I looked around for something, anything I could use as a weapon. I just kept telling myself I would not go down without a fight. As quietly as I could, I took the cover off the back of the toilet tank. It was heavy and made of porcelain, and I figured that even if it didn't kill that thing, hopefully it would at least stun it enough to give me time to make a break for it. I could hear him outside the door, sniffing the air like a dog. I held my breath and readied myself. There was nothing for a few moments. No sounds of walking or sniffing. I waited a few more seconds before I knelt to the ground and peered under the gap in the door. My brother's dead eye stared back at me. I screamed as the door began to bulge as that thing shoved its shoulder into the frame. I grabbed the tank cover again, readied myself. That's when I heard the sirens. I could hear shouting from outside and the stomping of boots across the smashed glass. The thing wouldn't stop. It kept throwing itself against the door. I heard one of the cops yell, "Taser," and then a rapid clicking noise. There was more shouting, more clicking, and then one of them said, "Stop or we will shoot." The thing outside the door paused for a moment, and then it charged at the officers. I could hear its heavy feet lurch across the floor. That's when I heard the gunshots. This is where I sort of black out. From what the cops tell me, they were able to get me out of the bathroom. My parents were called back in from the woods and were told their son had been found trying to attack their daughter. They were told that he had been killed after he attempted to attack an officer. We're staying in a hotel now, close to the station. They are going to interview us all again in the morning. They plan on doing an autopsy on my brother. My parents haven't said a word to me since we got here. I think they blame me. I wasn't the one to shoot my brother, but I was the person who called the man who did. I don't know if you all were hoping for some kind of miracle where we get a happy ending, but this is it. Maybe I'll update you all again after the autopsy report is finalized, but honestly, I think it's best to just let it go. My brother Kevin was kind, funny, smart, and most of all, adventurous. He wasn't that thing that came home to us. My brother died out on the trail, not bleeding out on the floor in the house we grew up in. I don't think we'll ever have answers unless maybe some of you have them. Hold your loved ones tight tonight. Rest in peace, big brother. It's creepy. I don't like it, James said, still carefully scanning the photo despite his statements. I sat in silence. I thought the photo was creepy as well, but not to the extent that James did. I just wasn't so sure what it was about the photo that scared him as badly as it did.
"I think it's interesting," I said, curling my finger. He caught the motion and handed the photo back to me. "You would, wouldn't you, Tony?" He gave me a light push. "How'd you even get this thing anyways?" I perked up. I knew how I'd received it and how it came into my possession, but I didn't actually know how the photo came to be. I didn't know anyone who was a photographer, and I certainly didn't know anyone capable of naturally capturing a photo such as the one I'd received earlier. I said. "Well, I went to check my mail like I usually do. I open it up and it's just there. No other mail either. I mean, makes sense considering it's Sunday, but still." "So it just appeared in your mailbox?" James asked. "Bullshit. You already saw it yourself," I said. "It's just the photo, nothing more. That, and there's no return address." The statement sent a small chill throughout my body. I'd known from the moment I examined it a little more closely that it had to have been placed directly in my mailbox. But it still unnerved me to know that whoever had given me this photograph knew where I lived. Yeah, he said. "I mean, who do you think could have put it in there? He was tapping his foot rapidly on the floor now. I could feel the slight vibrations of it in the couch. Well, I don't know anyone who could have taken it. I mean, Ben's pretty good at taking pictures, but he just does it for fun. And I couldn't begin to tell you how, well, this. I pointed at the figure in the photograph. James took it back and looked at it again. Yeah, he said. I just can't. It's so freaky. I didn't know if he'd meant to do it, but James put the photograph in his jacket pocket. Must have done it unconsciously. Hey, I tried to say. James cut me off. I mean, who takes a photograph like that? He said. It's weird. You think you'll be all right? You're a little more used to looking at this stuff than I am. I opted to give up on notifying him. He'd find out that he had the photo when he emptied his pockets, and then he'd surely give it back to me. Well, I won't dwell on it for too much longer, I said. I mean, if they put it in my mailbox, they probably know me personally, yeah? I'll just throw the photo away and go on with my life. Not a big deal. James's face shifted from slightly creeped out to his default neutral look. Yeah, okay. I think that's a good way to go about it. He got up from my couch and went over to the entrance hallway of my apartment. I think I'm gonna go. That photo's got me wigged out. I got up and walked over to him. All right, man, I said. Sorry if I really creeped you out with that. It's just, I thought it was interesting and that you'd like it, with you being into horror and all. Can't believe I'm saying this, he said, but I think for once that was too much. Too not human. I don't know. It's fucking weird, man.
He put his shoes on and went to open the door. I tried to apologize to him again. Hey man, I really am sorry. Just don't be too mad at me, right? He opened the door and began to walk out. Just before he left, he turned around. Well, I'm not mad now, but I can't say I won't be mad if I get nightmares. Dick, I said. Later. He left and the door closed, leaving me alone in my apartment with some questions. Mostly questions regarding the photograph. I didn't have to worry about looking at it, as the first thing I did when I received it was take a photo of it on my actual phone. I didn't do much for the rest of the day. Not enjoyable stuff anyways. I cleaned the apartment, reorganized some stuff, watched some TV, did laundry, and eventually made dinner. After I ate, I sat down at my desk in my room and thought about what I'd do for the rest of the night. That was when I thought of the photograph again. I thought of how creepy it looked and what it made me feel. I felt the need to examine it a little closer. I pulled out my phone, turned the brightness all the way up, and set it down on my desk. I went to my phone gallery and selected the photo. A shudder ran down my spine. Similarly to the first time I saw the photo, it was jarring and caught me off guard. I'll do my best to describe what was in the photograph. The first thing I noted was the lack of light. The photograph was very clearly taken at night, but there was something else. The atmosphere was gloomy, eerie. There wasn't a star in the sky, nor the moon. The only light in the photo, seemingly, was the flash on the camera it was taken with. It looked like the photograph was taken just a few hundred feet away from the entrance of a forest. The trees were dark, but not so much that I couldn't make out what they were. They were thick too, thick trunks, thick leaves. They smothered the space in the forest and made it impossible to see what was inside it. There was one thing I could see, though, and it was what shook James so badly. On the far left of the photograph, almost impossible to make out, was a man standing just in front of the forest entrance. Well, calling him a man wouldn't exactly be the correct way of going about it. He looked like a man, mostly. He wore blue jeans and a green t-shirt, but that was the extent to which he was clothed. His legs and one of his arms were mostly normal-sized, albeit a bit lanky. His right arm was too long for a normal human body. The area near his legs was hard to make out, but his arm drooped down to it, and I couldn't see where it ended. His chest was normal too, but his head... I could see why it had scared James so badly. The man's head looked too big for his body. He had hair, but it was wispy and downy like a newborn's. His head was the only part that was big, though everything else was too small. His eyes were tiny. If I had to estimate, I'd say that, in comparison to the rest of his head, they looked like small olives. They were pure white and looked like they were just there, not bordered in any color, just there. It was uncanny. His nose wasn't pronounced, if I could even call what he had a nose. It was more like he had nostrils in his face. Two slits way too far down from his eyes, too far to be normal.
His mouth couldn't be normal either. It was similar to his nose in that it wasn't pronounced, but rather a semi-large slit across his face. It was about 3.5 inches long. The mouth was parted, and his teeth didn't look solid. They seemed to be fat, pearly balls in his mouth. White bulbous lumps, swollen and bulging from his gums. His ears were small too, but those weren't much to look at. I had to say it felt a lot more frightening looking at the photo when the sun had set. It being light out earlier had given me some form of relief. I felt safe in the daylight, but now I felt vulnerable, like the thing in the photograph was watching me. I closed my blinds and locked my door. I got into my bed and kept the lights on. If it was dark, I might not have been able to get to sleep. Not that it mattered, because I ended up having a nightmare. At first, there was darkness. Then I was able to see. My heart began to thump rapidly when I found out where I was. I'd found myself in the location where the photo was taken. The complete lack of general light and the eerie atmosphere didn't help my increasing anxiety. What nearly pushed me over the edge was when I tried to move my legs and found I couldn't. I panicked and tried to move, but I couldn't do a thing. That was when I looked up. He wasn't where he was in the photo originally. He was moving. I could hear as his freakishly long arm dragged along the ground. He reached me, but before he could do anything, the nightmare ended, and I woke up. I was sweaty and breathing heavily. When I realized that what had happened wasn't real, I fell back into the bed. Relieved, I fell into a slightly less terrifying slumber this time. That was yesterday. Today, I woke up to the sounds of someone rapidly banging on my door. I got up and out of bed. I trudged towards the entrance of my apartment. I got to the door, unlocked it, and opened it. The first thing I saw was the photograph. James pushed it into my hands and started to speak frantically. I had a nightmare. Shit, I said. So did I. About him? He said. Yeah, I replied. What was yours? He asked. I was in the place the photo was taken, and he tried to do something to me. He didn't end up doing anything, but it still scared me. He was in my house, in mine. It felt so real. He opened my bedroom door and crawled on top of me. Felt like I was suffocating. I screamed and pushed him off. When I woke up, he was gone. Just a dream. Wow, I said. Yeah, he said. I'm going home. Going to sleep so I won't be tired. You need to burn that photo. Now.
Before I could answer, he was gone. I didn't do much today. Mostly just rested and prepared to burn that photograph. Haven't heard from James. Probably because he's resting. I decided that I'd take the photo and burn it outside. Tonight, the photograph would be gone, and James and I would be released from the nightmare. I decided that I'd do it after dinner. Just before I went outside, though, I thought of examining the photo one last time. I don't know why I did it, and I wish I hadn't, but I did. I sat down at my desk once more. I pulled out the photograph and examined it closely. I very quickly noticed that something was wrong. Something was off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, though. I took another photo of the physical photograph. I opened up the photo editing app on my phone and layered the two together. I made the first layer visible and made the second invisible. Then I did the opposite. I looked and looked and looked until I found out what was wrong. It was on the far left side of the photograph. In the first picture I'd taken, the man was stood in front of the forest, his head still too large for his body. As I looked at the second photo, my heart sunk. I turned my phone off and looked at the physical photograph. The man was gone. It looked only like a photo of a creepy forest. My next move was to try and call James. I picked up my phone and went to his contact in my phone app. I clicked the call button and waited with bated breath. I only got a message. The person you were trying to reach is not available. Please try again later.